our lonesome, and I believe in us. This is not our first rodeo together, Joe. This is not our first rodeo doing this show together. I think we'll be all right, though. We will miss our good buddy Dominic,
Yeah.
no less. We are tackling Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, a film not enough people saw this weekend, disappointingly so. That's a whole other topic of conversation I'm going to try not to veer into, or else I'm going to get pissed, and I don't want to get pissed talking about this movie. And then we're also going to talk about, normally we start the show with an in memoriam section or subject if somebody dies, but I think I have too much to say about this person who was part of my love for documentaries too. I have too much to say about this person to devote like 10 minutes to it. And I think that his catalog, I don't think people realize how colorful of a catalog documentarian Morgan Spurlock, who passed away at the age of 53 from cancer last week, really had. Everybody knows him as the Super Size Me guy. He was like, it's like you start your career with Crank That Soldier Boy. You're going to be forever known as something that big, that monumental, and that transformative. Oscar-nominated documentary. And I think the second thing that he's probably most known for has got to be that FX show, 30 Days, which I don't know if you've ever watched that show. That was a fascinating show back in the day. I've seen some episodes. I don't know if you've ever watched it. They don't air it anymore on TV. I don't even know if it's streaming anywhere. Might be on Amazon, but a lot to say clearly about Morgan Spurlock passing, at least on my end. So I'll be interested in what your thoughts too are, Joe, because I'm not going to lie, shocked the shit out of me. It's been a minute since a celebrity death shocked me. And I saw him trending on Twitter and I clicked on it and I was like, what the fuck? Like, it's been a while. A lot of the deaths recent. I mean, Toby Keith was more sad than it was shocking for me. I guess Jimmy Buffett was a little shocking, but he wasn't really young. 53 is way too young. Like that was another thing about that. But we're going to talk Morgan Spurlock too after the show as well. So, and then we got Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. So loaded show on Sleepless today. Again, gruesome twosome tackling it. Joe, big question. How are you?
I'm doing good. You saying like it is the the end of May, the last show of May, it made me realize like, holy shit, like May for me at least has felt like it's been going on forever now. That could be because I was in the process of graduating and I was handling that, and then now I'm post graduation and time feels like it's going by so slow as I look to find something career wise worth my degree. So it's been feeling like forever now. It's just a long month in general too. I think usually I always felt that way about May whenever it comes around, which is good because it's warmer weather here. Actually, in Illinois, it's been warmer, but it's also been raining a ton, and we have our cicada problem that's going on and everything.
Stormy as shit.
It really is.
Stormy as shit the last couple of days.
I honestly don't know why. Sorry, I was just taking a sip of water.
live and online. It's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
Back and better than ever, Sleepless with Steve, live on YouTube. Siskel, my cat, jumps on my lap just in time. Good to be with you. First show of June, I think we're beyond it now, but about at the halfway point of 2024, believe it or not, somehow, some way. Officially in the summer movie season. And what's more definitive about the summer movie season than talking and reviewing a brand new documentary and spending an hour on it? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do tonight. We are talking about MoviePass, MovieCrash. That is the movie tonight. Brand new Max documentary. Kind of came a little bit out of nowhere. I missed when this thing actually premiered at South by Southwest a few weeks back. It's now on Max, though. It's now streaming on several HBO channels as well. And there is a lot to talk about, and mainly because it's a documentary that directly it was about something that me and Joe not only used regularly, abused regularly, but also was really a stalwart talking point on the original iteration of Sleepless with Steve back on the radio on WONC FM 89. I hope somebody who's working today, appreciates the tag. I added WONC in my tweet for Sleepless tonight. So I hope somebody working the 3 to 6 shift or the 6 to 8 shift now, however they divvy it up now. It's true. It's true. So they're getting paid. They're getting paid to keep that X page open, the Twitter page open, whatever it is. They're getting paid to like and notice that tweet. So now I had to shout out WONC though, because we used a lot of their airtime or a lot of their bandwidth very gingerly back in the college days, because MoviePass was becoming a weekly story on the show back when the show was 3 hours long. Still don't know how we did that. Back when the show is 3 hours long, MoviePass found its way into pretty much every conversation, every show on a weekly basis. So to see a documentary about something that, like, it's one thing to remember it like BS High. Like, I remember seeing that Bishop Sycamore game on TV.
Yeah.
It's one thing to remember it, but I'm just like, why the hell's a high school team playing on ESPN? And oh my God, they suck. I remember turning it on for like 2 minutes and I'm like, it's 38-0. My God, it's different. It's different though when you actually like went through it. Thank God didn't invest in it. But MoviePass is going to be an interesting topic today. It's going to be the star of our show, mainly the documentary MoviePass, MovieCrash, which I have a lot to say about, and I assume you gentlemen do too. Of course, I got Joe Viso, Dominic Guanzon. Dominic returns after a week sabbatical last week. Dominic, I'll start with you. First things first. Did you get a chance to see Furiosa at all or not?
Dude, I did not. So tonight I'm going to watch the original Mad Max and then watch Furiosa.
Okay.
Not 2 in 1, because that's insane. But yes, I will be doing that this week.
Are you watching the Mel Gibson movie or Fury Road?
No. Fury Road.
Okay.
So
the
I was
fourth
gonna say,
Mad
I'm like,
Max.
that's interesting. You're just gonna watch Mad Max and then go watch Furiosa. All right.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a little peculiar. So you're watching Fury Road tonight and then going to see Furiosa. Got it.
Yes.
I love it. How are you doing, my friend?
It's summer season, baby. Things are ramping up, but I got a lot of good things. I got a lot of good projects on the side. I just launched a new podcast with my former boss, now
I saw that
podcast co-host, and we talk about Sonic the Hedgehog. The Archie comic Sonic the Hedgehog is, and I think still is, one of the longest running single line of comics in American history. At clocking in at, I want to say 400 and something individual issues, which is insane. Like, for a single run, not even, Action Comics doesn't even do that. Superman or Batman, right? Detective Comics, no, it's all individual. It starts and stops throughout the years. But Sonic kept going for at least, I want to say, 3 decades or so. So we're going to go issue by issue, and we should be done in about 11 years. So we got plenty of content. We calculated it. We should be good. So come and join in on the fun before it runs out.
How have I never? I saw you were doing. I saw you were doing this. How have I never heard of this though? The Sonic the Hedgehog comic series from Archie Comics.
So the thing with Sonic the Hedgehog is that it's all very fragmented. The TV show, there were like two TV shows running at the exact same time in the
Yep.
90s. And they were both radically different styles from one another. The video games, there's like 6 eras of video games, each of their own continuity, 6, 7, 8, and this comic book, this Archie Comics, there's a new comic now that's running as we speak. We'll get to that in the next decade, but this new run, that is its own continuity. Actually, that's tied in with they're finally synergizing shit in the past like 5 years, but Sonic the Hedgehog's been around since the early 90s, so they had a lot of catching up to do. So yes, this specific Archie Comics, Archie, their mascot, they're being the Riverdale, the original Riverdale comics and whatnot, but the company Archie, Sabrina the Teenage Witch, etc. But the original or the original Sonic the Hedgehog Archie comics were just their own continuity. That's why you probably never saw it, even if you played the games. So unless you were into Sonic fandom and lore, which I was as a kid, I never got to read the comics because that cost money. But I was in the fandom, right? I was writing fan fiction. I was in the OG early 2000s forums.
I also assume you were reading these online then.
Yes, very much so.
Because these things aren't cheap. I was just looking on eBay. These damn things aren't cheap. I see somebody on Reddit collected all 600 some odd issues.
Yeah. And after, literally decades and decades of content of comics. And
these look fun.
We're gonna go through them. It's so funny because the style changes over the literal decades. So,
it looks like it. I just judging by the covers.
Early on, it's like wacky Looney Tunes. There's hardly any continuity, which is fun because when you try to force some kind of logic into them, it makes a really good discussion, even though it's senseless many times. But later on, it gets like epic. It gets like crazy, like some anime epic shit happens. So I've heard. So we'll see. We shall see. But the clips are doing great. Those YouTube shorts, fantastic. They're really fun to make, and they're hits.
The future of podcasting, I think, even too, is niches. It's weird, it's weird little subsets of subsets. That I think
that's how it is now.
I think is fun. I've thought about this, and I don't know where I'd fit it in my schedule, but a buddy of mine suggested to me years ago when he was like, he's like, you could probably do, and he's like, they're not as like dichotomous as you think. He said, you should do a podcast by yourself. And he goes, it's focused on Christian movies and Tyler Perry movies.
You could do that. You could do that and make bank, my friend.
Yeah, seriously. Like you talk about like a non-believer reviewing Christian movies and stuff. You know how much hate mail I'm gonna get? You know how much hate mail I'm gonna get? There's no such love like Christian hate. I was very, very hesitant to make a podcast that's like, oh, we're going to talk about this existing piece of content. Like that seems a little cheap. But the thing with that, it's not like hey, here's a podcast talking about The Office. Everyone's seen The Office, right? The Office actors have their own podcast on that stuff. But this is something that, like you said, Steve, even though you probably played some Sonic the Hedgehog, you're aware of the character Sonic the Hedgehog. No one's read, not no one. Hundreds of thousands of people have read this comic, but it's kind of faded into the background, which is crazy because it's been around for, again, literal decades. So that's what attracted me to like commit to doing it. And it's just really fun to hang out with. And people have read them, but how many people have done like a deep analysis of them? That's
100%.
the other point. That's the other
which is
point.
Funny because again, we're early on. It's the early 90s and they're doing like basic Looney Tunes shit. So the analysis can only go so far. So we're like inserting politics on top of it. It's great. It's a good time.
How do you top that, Joe? How are you?
Oh, how do I top that? Very simple, Steve. I got one answer. You can find me every Thursday night talking about the Fast and Furious movies on my podcast. We family.
We the family.
Got
a new box set.
Dom, actually, I saw you post that on Instagram, and I watched a couple of those shorts. That podcast honestly seems like a lot of fun. And I was going to say the exact same thing to you, where it's like, I'm not surprised the shorts are doing well because Sonic fans they're not a niche group, but they very much care about that. We're
kind of leaning on that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
a fan base that like is so passionate about that character. Um,
100%. Oh, I
if
forgot
what's
to mention the shtick of the podcast. Every episode, my co-host Nick, he writes a script that I have not read.
oh
So I'm cold reading his analysis of that issue.
Very
But
fun.
yeah,
just from the sounds of it, I mean, like hell, might as well throw Sonic the Hedgehog 3 on the Sleepless schedule here for us to review. Um,
honestly,
I
yeah.
honestly, not even gonna lie, actually a film I'm genuinely looking forward to because I really did enjoy the second one a ton compared to that
Hmm.
first one.
Huh.
Um, so I wouldn't mind actually like reviewing that. But overall I'm doing fine in the same kind of boat as Dom. It's summer season now for me as well. I just got done updating our website for my jobs, like about
Ooh.
all the Independence Day celebrations that are happening around town and everything, and how you can participate. I'm reaching out to people to participate in the parade. A lot more responsibilities than when I first started out where I was working. Where it's like they were kind of like, okay, we'll ease you in, and now they're like kind of handing me more of the keys to a lot of these events. And then right after that, the nice thing about this job is, unlike where I used to work, which was a park district, um, events here are seasonal. Well, not seasonal. Events here, it's just like one a season, but they're big events. Like, it's like, hey, this is a city event, so we have to put a lot of time and effort into this, rather than a park district, which was like 20 events within one season. They're
Mhm.
all so minor, but like, it's a bunch of like, okay, I gotta make sure this is happening. I gotta make sure this is happening. A lot of checking in on stuff. A lot of micromanaging other people that I just didn't like doing that. Here, where it's like, hey, I have an event in winter, spring, summer, and fall. They're big events. A lot goes into them, but it's a lot easier to manage. Because like right after this, it's like I mainly focus on our Halloween stuff and then Christmas, and that's it. So
I
yeah, I'm
like
in the
it.
same boat of all that stuff as well when it comes to event planning. Not to the extent of Dom. Dom does a lot more than me, but I definitely do understand because I've been in that grind set of like event season during the summer when I worked at a park district, so I
Oh
totally get
yeah.
it.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Staying busy, trying to stay sane this summer too. Let us start though diving into MoviePass, MovieCrash. I'm jumping at the bit to talk about this movie. And Joe and I kind of teased it at the end of the last episode or last week's show. But I want to like paint a picture of this though, is that we've reviewed documentaries here quite frequently on Sleepless with Steve, even going back to the radio days. And I think all three of us, we love a great documentary. I love HBO documentaries. I think HBO documentaries are some of the best in the game. Um, and the thing about me is somebody who goes down a lot of weird rabbit holes about like history, like weird facets of history and pop culture. Like I really love documentaries that explore some like things like Action Park. But at the end of the day, though, I can read countless stories and watch videos of Action Park, but I'll never get the opportunity to experience it myself. Catherine and I just had the privilege of seeing the Blue Angels documentary in theaters last week, and that was a good watch. And part of the reason it's a good watch, I've never seen the Blue Angels, though. Unfortunately, I've never seen them in person. But part of the reason it's a good watch is, and I'm thrilled by it, is because I don't have nearly what it takes to get off the damn ground. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? I can't be a pilot. I can't fly a damn plane. So it's really cool to see. It's really cool to see the way that they do these insanely intricate flights. But now with MoviePass, MovieCrash, here's something that I experienced firsthand, that Joe I know experienced firsthand. Did you have MoviePass, Dom?
No, I did not. I did not have Movie Pass.
Okay, so you're the outsider looking in this equation.
Yeah, but I distinctly remember you guys just living on cloud nine when that shit was going
Yes.
on,
Oh,
man.
dude.
Like I was imitating. It was funny. I won't say his name, but it was last night when Catherine and I watched the movie. We watched this, and I was because she didn't have it either. So I was explaining. I said like how like all like people our age, were tapped into social media. We heard all about it and stuff like that. But I distinctly remember a conversation with one of my dad's close friends and explaining it to him. And the boomer energy to try to decipher the logic in every situation. He's like, "How the fuck do they make any money?" I'm like, that remains to be seen. But right now, I'm gonna ride this till the wheels fall off, and that's exactly what we did. So the movie, directed by Muta Ali, basically chronicles the beginning of MoviePass, its explosion in 2017, and then its crashing and burning in 2018, 2019. Essentially, though, it tells the origin story of this, and it's fascinating too, because for as much as Joe and I covered this, we covered this story on WONC and
I
Sleepless with
counted
Steve.
11 videos.
11 videos. Nice, nice.
And
Wow.
that's not including what we talked about even like on the reboot of this where it got relaunched.
Where it got relaunched.
We've really come
yeah.
full circle on like topics this year, haven't we? Dan Schneider.
It was like only watching this movie, it was like we only knew half the story. We've only seen half the movie. Because MoviePass did not start with the $9.95 a month, one movie, any movie, any theater, any day sort of gimmick. That was not the start of MoviePass. MoviePass began with Stacy Spikes, and then later, looking for his name here in my review really quick. I know
Chris Hamay.
Yep.
that's not what's his last name. It's Hamay.
Oh, sorry, Hamay Wilkes, I think. Nope.
Watt. There we
Watt.
go. Finally, I'll do better next time.
Yeah, I watched the movie. I watched the documentary.
It was Stacy Spikes who started the app and started the website, the subscription service, and then linked up with Hamay Watt. And they joined forces together to try to get this thing off the ground. Now, originally it was $40 a month, and you can see as many movies in theaters. Now, they kind of plateaued around 20,000 subscribers, and also being two African-American men lacking capital, they had to go and find an outside investor or convince somebody to help run the company, which is where they got Mitch Lowe. And by the time most of us had heard and gotten MoviePass, Spikes and Watt were booted from the company. And then it was these two dickheads, Mitch Lowe and Ted Farnsworth, running the show. And Ted Farnsworth got the backing and the help of Helios and Matheson Analytics. That was a name we kept bringing up on the show because it's like they keep talking about, and we remember this vividly, they kept talking about how what's going to make this thing financially solvent is selling consumer data. But I think if we go through one of those 11 videos, you're going to find Joe and I talking about, is consumer data that valuable to offset $100 million in losses? Like that was another question I remember discussion of us having on the air back in the day too. So this documentary is 96 minutes, but it covers a lot of ground. We're going to dive into all of it. We've got the next 50 minutes or so to do so. I'll start with you, Joe, your reaction to MoviePass, MovieCrash.
So my reaction, of course, was like, the minute I heard that this documentary was being made, I was like, oh my God, I have to see this. I have to find out like where it's premiering, if it's coming to movie theaters, wherever. When I found out it was coming to Max, I like immediately sent it to the chat. I'm like, we have to review this. Like, it's almost like an obligation at this point from how many times we made videos about that damn thing. Honestly, if you add up the views for all the videos that we did, it's probably well over like 11,000, 12,000 total views with the videos that we did covering MoviePass, which is pretty cool. But my initial reaction was to this documentary is a little disappointing in some ways, but overall I do think it's good. Where I found it, I'll start with the bad. Normally I don't want to do that. I'll start with the bad. Where I thought I was disappointed was I felt like the middle of this documentary, once it focuses on what Ted and Mitch Lowe start doing with the company, it wasn't as crazy as they were shaping it up to be at the start of this documentary, as well as the trailers. It was like, no, this is crazy. I mean, like, there's even an instance, I think the craziest it got for me was Ted Farnsworth was pitching MoviePass Air, where they wanted to start their own airline company. And I'm like, okay, that's insane.
And that's saying something when Dennis Rodman is involved too.
Yeah. They had Dennis Rodman at Coachella. Like, I mean, that's another crazy thing too. The fact that they like just were at Coachella and everything, that causes a ton of money. I think what I think what was lacking here, was the fact that we had Mitch Lowe in this documentary, but I felt like he wasn't utilized as much. And maybe the questions they asked him he didn't give the best answers. He didn't agree to answer certain questions, but I felt like we have him here, and maybe because, we just got done reviewing BS High like a few months back, And when you had literally the man that documentary focuses on,
He was
and,
like a psychopath, though.
Yeah.
Mitch is just regular, like just regular rich, just
Mitch is-
regular bastard rich.
And I don't mean to cut you off in the middle of your thing, but I'm just gonna say this too. I think that Mitch is just a corporate asshole. Number one. Number two, though, the other thing I think you have to remember, and it kind of it helped contextualize for me at the end. He's still awaiting trial. So
That's true,
I
too.
think there's a piece
I
of
didn't think about that.
I think
Yeah.
there's a piece of that he's awaiting trial, and this thing's going to get a lot of coverage. So that's where I'm not absolving him, but like I think that was hyper cognizant, and also why we don't get Farnsworth's opinion in this thing.
Okay, all right, maybe that's actually a good point. I didn't actually consider that, and I should have realized that too when it ends with the text about both him and Ted are waiting. Like,
there's a lot to take in with this movie. No,
There honestly is a lot.
It also just reminds me. I mean, like with the other documentary example I was going to bring up was, it's not the Netflix one, but there's 2 documentaries focused on Fire Festival. The Netflix
I was thinking
one,
that too.
Yeah, the Netflix one doesn't have the guy that was basically behind it, while the Hulu one does, and you kind of get like his input and everything. I think, like, again, like the beginning of this movie really builds it up that it's gonna get crazy, like the Fire Festival documentary almost. Only for when everything starts panning out. The only time I'm really like having any emotions, like reacting to what's happening, is seeing what's happening to Stacy and Hamat. That was terrible. Like the fact that how bad is they had such a great idea, only for it to just be taken away by these 2 guys. And all I kept thinking the entire time while watching it is, damn, like, if these 2 guys actually would have like stayed in charge, MoviePass probably would have never gone away. If they would have found like a good balance of like, hey, we can drop it to $9.99 a month so everybody gets like a taste of it, and then we find a new price or something, that probably would have been better. And it sucks also seeing how many times Stacy and Hamat, like they came close with like CEOs of AMC, like Jerry Lopez, where he stepped down after some time, and he was going to be the guy to kind of help usher in MoviePass. And then when the new CEO came in of the AMC theaters, he said, nah, we don't want to do that. Because damn, I mean, like, you really, the beginning of this documentary where you're watching these guys explain how they came up with the idea, why they think this would be such a good idea, it makes so much sense. And it would help movie going. In fact, it did help movie going. I mean, we have a video of that on the channel too, about how much MoviePass has increased box office sales and like, and all this other stuff. But yeah, I mean, like once you get to Ted and Mitch taking over, it's so crazy because it's just like you think you're gonna get like all these crazy stories, like because they produced movies like Gotti, and Gotti's a terrible fucking movie. I hate to use our one F word, but there we go. They produced that. They made a good one, the animal one, the what's it called?
American Animals.
American Animals. Thank you. Yeah,
one of my favorite movies. One of my favorite movies that year.
That one was good. Too bad they didn't promote that like they promoted Gotti as much. Them being at Coachella, them having all these parties and these raves and all, buying out liquor of like a whole event, and you're just like, okay, but like what else? And then like you feel like there should be more there, and it's like maybe just the page hasn't been uncovered yet because again, maybe when they get to court, more stuff will start to turn up. Maybe once we get their accounts of everything, more stuff will start to turn up. But I don't want to make it sound like I didn't like this documentary. I have plenty of good things to say. I'm going to stop right here, though, since the timer just popped up, and I'm going to pass it off to Dom for his initial thoughts.
The number one thing you should take away from this documentary is that if you get bad leadership in charge, particularly external leadership, they are just nothing but parasites. This outsider capital, Hudson Bay, they're not tech bros, but they're just con artists, which can sometimes be tech bros, but they weren't even that. The number of times I forget which one's Ted, the number of failed ventures when you see him pitching so many different products, it's not impressive. It's not a hustle. It's pathetic. It's pathetic. It's like
products you never heard of for a reason.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, there's a point where you really are a confidence man to the umpth degree. And when they went from product to product, I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know he had 2, 3, 4, he had 5 different ventures and they all went under, or rather and it's like he never did. Honestly, the Fire Festival thing really is the perfect parallel. It's that same exact mentality, right? Parasites, absolute parasites. And when I was seeing some discourses like, man, this really shows the racism in like how can the MoviePass situation be a racist thing? Oh, oh shit. I'm like, I remember during those years at the college station, we talked about the movie Hidden Figures, and that movie itself was very, very mid, right? It felt like a movie from like the 90s, to be frank. But damn, if the message there isn't exactly what this one is, where it's like, yeah, at no point did I know that there were literally both of the founders. It wasn't those two guys, even though they when they said in the interviews, like, yeah, I created this thing, like, go fuck yourself. I'll throw in another one there for the homies. Like, man, go to hell. I had no idea Stacy and Hame were at all involved. I didn't do that much digging. I probably would have learned that if I did. But still, and there's still millions and millions of people who remember MoviePass fondly and think it's actually really funny now seeing Stacy, who's currently at this moment in charge of the resurgent MoviePass, and they see like, oh, Stacy Spikes he's in charge of he's the CEO of MoviePass. They'll probably think he was the asshole if they don't know the story, right? Just reflexively. But no, honestly, and I was mentioning this earlier in the green room, but it really is amazing how the College Humor MoviePass CEO video actually is precise. It is spot on to what actually happened. Just complete balls to the wall, no plan. And the honestly, I know once I figured that Ted was not going to make any appearance whatsoever in this documentary, I figured that it was like he didn't want to do it for legal reasons, or even not legal reasons, but rather he just didn't want to go on camera, right? But also probably for legal reasons. But man, it really seemed like Ted was the one who was living that Billy, what's his name? Billy Mitchell? Billy
McFarlane.
Billy
Yes.
McFarlane, like life, where it's like, I finally made it.
Yeah.
I need this external validation. I don't feel any sympathy for this asshole whatsoever, but it is so interesting. His insecurity, it's so craven, his need for that lifestyle.
And Mitch Lowe is not
amazing.
innocent. We know this. Mitch Lowe is not innocent, but he was the perfect idiot. He was the perfect go along, get along guy. Like
Yeah,
he
man.
was the guy that they like George. I reference Carlin, I think, a ton on this show, but he was like George Carlin said. Every corporation or every business needs obedient workers. He said they need somebody who's just smart enough to run the numbers and do the work and run the books, but just dumb enough to not realize how fucked they're getting. And that was like, I'm not absolving Lowe. He's a lot to blame too, but Farnsworth was the orchestrator too. And it comes out at the very end. I feel like it's a spoiler, but it's really not. He's a stock promoter. That's all he was. He was like a pump and dump artist. You know what I mean? Like a pump and dump stock scheme artist. That's kind of what he was. It still is. He's a free man as of now, as of the release of this documentary.
Yeah. The best parts of this documentary, I mean, like I said, they are the moments with Stacy and Hamat that I think, like, they shine through here. Because when you get to hear their side of the story, which, like Dom said, I didn't even know that was like going on. I was like, wait. I'm like, these are the guys that actually made it. I actually thought it was Mitch Lowe and Ted Farnsworth for like the longest time. So actually getting like their side of the story, especially Stacy's. Stacy is like, he is the underdog here throughout the whole documentary. And every time something bad comes his way, you're just like, dude, I hope something comes around for you. Only, where you find out where he ends up, it's like, damn. But the other part that I loved about this documentary was seeing the point of view of the workers at MoviePass.
Yes.
And how they were constantly like, we don't know what the hell is going on. We don't know how this is working right now because
we have hundreds of thousands of like support tickets to get to, people clawing at the door to get their shit done. Meanwhile, we can't afford extension cords, but also meanwhile, Ted is out at Coachella just partying.
We have to go to a bank to get pens.
That's incredible. This story could not be a more stark, like, just example of what capital does to a mother, son of a bitch, man.
I will say, like, you know, even though I wasn't crazy about like the stuff we were learning about Mitch and Ted, like I kind of felt like it's not as crazy as they were making it out to be. I mean, but it does, as to your credit, Dom, the message you brought up, yeah, it really does show that like you get two guys like this to be in charge of something like this, and it can go under so quick. Like it really did show that at the very least, and it did give that whole message and that idea. It was just like, man, I like. Again, when this movie is starting out, I was like, damn, I'm really hoping like we really get into the meat and bones here, but it's like maybe I just have to wait for like another documentary focusing on this.
In our closing couple of minutes before the break, I just really want to say, like, I love history, right? Or at least just loosely learning about history. And it's like this is really like Emperor Nero just partying it up while Rome burns.
Yeah.
It is amazing how this work situation, right? And meant pretty much every other one, like 95% of other work situations in the United States, right? It's just dictatorial, right? If you think about it, your workplace probably, unless you work in a cooperative, it's like a monarchy if you think about it, to some degree, right? Some dictatorial situation, and you really have no recourse except maybe social media, and because like HR works for the company, they don't work for you, really. So and like, bro, again, just the party atmosphere. Meanwhile, because I do work tickets at work, at my job, and it's like I can't imagine hundreds of thousands. Meanwhile, it's like a dozen of us. That's it, and I need to, like, I'm a slave to this lack of extension cord. It's amazing. It's just, I was banging my head against the wall.
I think the one other point I want to make too is that, like, one of the saddest parts I think of the documentary is not only Hamay and Stacy getting ousted from their own company, but still retaining their stock. Still retaining
that
their
was
stock.
torture.
Oh yeah,
but it's frozen and they can't touch it for a year. And not only
it's good that rule is there. That rule is there for good reason, because of golden parachute shit. But
it is.
This is one of the few times where it's like, oh no, no.
And it was 80 million. I think they said it was $80 million valuation stock wise, that their holdings when they got ousted, and they couldn't touch it for 12 months. And these jagoffs sunk the company in like 8. Like after that, and then the stock.
If that ain't America, if that ain't America.
Oh God, I think I joked to Catherine. I said at one point they should play "Only in America" by Brooks and Dunn in this movie. You know, man, everybody gets to dance. Indeed. We will be back here in just a couple of minutes. Sleepless with Steve live on YouTube, continuing our conversation with MoviePass, MovieCrash. I do have a couple complaints. This documentary is not perfect. I do have a couple misgivings with it. Overall, as much as it tells a great story, we'll dive into that coming back in just a couple of minutes. Meanwhile, enjoy a clip from past Sleepless with Steve episodes, courtesy of Joe Viso here. Back in just a couple of minutes, live on Wednesday. It is Sleepless with Steve.
I'm in agreement with Steve. I miss going to the theater to see comedies, man. And it sucks that, like, my mom thought I got a credit card when she saw it at first. She's like, what is this? She was like, why did you get a credit card? I'm like, no, read it. And she's like, oh.
It came in this very conspicuous envelope, so it came in like just a plain
She opened it, and she usually doesn't open my mail, but she got like concerned. She was like, what is this?
Yeah, because it doesn't, I thought, I was expecting like kind of a Netflix red envelope,
yeah.
You know what I mean? With a white letters that say movie.
I was going to say like, yeah, your ticket to the theater or something.
So yeah, something like that. Make me feel, blessed over here.
Yeah.
But no, that did not happen. But I've had no problems with it. I got a little bit when I saw Call Me by Your Name, which was the movie I first used it for, or I used it for first. I went to Regal. I did screw up first because you're supposed to hit check in first on the app, then it's supposed to register that you are within 100 yards of the theater.
I didn't know about that.
And then when you hit, then you have to hit check in again so it registers money to the card. I only registered to the theater, so the first time I used the card, they're like, there's no money on this thing. So I'm like, I got to hit check in again. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You have to check in to register that you are within the theater, and then you have to check in and say, I am seeing this movie at this time.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
Yeah, I didn't know about that 100-yard thing because I was at my house and I'm like, all right, Proud Mary. Well, it was supposed to be Proud Mary originally. And I tried checking in for it. It's like, you got to be 100 yards in the theater. I'm like, oh, yeah, I did not know about that. Another thing I heard too was you can't get like show times like within a certain amount of hours basically. So like, let's just say I go to the theater at 10 a.m. From what I've been hearing, I got to test this out and see if it's true because the person I heard this from doesn't own a MoviePass. They just said it to me. They're like, I think you can. They work at a movie theater. They're like, I think you can't get like later showtime. So if I were to go there at 10 a.m., check in. Let's just say I want to get Paddington 2 at 10 p.m. I can't do that. I would have to like show it within like a certain amount of time.
I think that is true.
That is true?
I think that is true. Because the one thing, and I don't mind that. I honestly don't. But the one thing though, like on next Monday, okay, I'm gonna go to, or not next Monday, this coming Monday. No, is it this coming Monday? I can't even know anymore. Yeah, next Monday, the 29th. Next Monday, I'm gonna go see that 85 Bears documentary that's gonna be in the theaters. That documentary on the 1985 Chicago Bears. I'm not going to use MoviePass for that because
it's going to be sold out.
Well, you got to buy tickets in advance. You can't do that with MoviePass. Yeah. You know what I mean? And also too, that's a special event, so I don't even know if they cover that. I highly doubt they do.
That's a good point too.
I don't know if they cover Phantom events, but I'm not going to risk it too and buy it on the day of and have it be sold out. So I'm going to buy it in advance. Back and better than ever, it's Sleepless with Steve live on YouTube. We are talking MoviePass, MovieCrash. Probably going to dive in, probably end the show talking about some of our experiences with the app/subscription service MoviePass. But continuing on talking about the documentary, Joe, when you were talking about some of your criticisms at first, it's kind of what you led with. The one thing I was going to bring up, but then Dom hadn't went yet, so I wanted to give Dom obviously the floor to speak, and he said some great stuff as usual. I wanted to touch on when you mentioned the Gotti movie and stuff, and how you felt they didn't like maybe go into that too much or maybe glossed over the whole MoviePass Ventures thing. The one thing, and they might have mentioned it offhandedly. Again, there was a lot to digest in this thing. They might have mentioned it offhandedly, but I don't think they really got they really got the funny part about this. When MoviePass Ventures came on the scene, the two movies that they quote unquote produced were American Animals, one of the best movies of that year, and Gotti, one of the worst movies of that year. So now that's one part of the humor of it, is that it's two totally different movies, two totally different stories. The humorous part of it though was, okay, so they funnel money in these movies to try to, get a venture and get more money. But the ironic part was, if you go and look, I don't know if they've released the figures for American Animals, but for Gotti, roughly 40 to 45% of that movie's theatrical ticket sales were from MoviePass. They were buying tickets to their own fucking movie. Yeah. That's essentially what
Sound of Freedom tactic.
No, they didn't have the Angel Guild to do that. They didn't have the Angel Guild to do that. No, the studio is actively doing it. Even like, it's the old joke of like studios buying movie tickets to like inflate the box office numbers. That was a joke, especially in the 70s and the 80s in the industry and stuff. So it's like, how did this movie make so much money? MoviePass was literally doing that. I was hoping that they would emphasize that, because I used MoviePass to go to Gotti and American Animals. And I remember even thinking, like, they're essentially paying me to go to this movie in so many words. So I thought that was funny. In so many ways. But the fact too, though, with MoviePass, MovieCrash, though, the one thing that, and it's not a criticism of style or a criticism of just construction. This is a pretty predictably structured documentary, though. It's got the talking heads, it's got the archival footage, it's got the news clippings, and it's got sometimes really gaudily cheesy animation. Yeah. But that's not really what I'm getting at. The one thing that I thought was interesting that they didn't really develop on was that, so the first half of the documentary, the first third, is Spikes and Watt, Stacey and Hamet, talking about how they want to disrupt. They use that word a lot. Disrupt the industry, the movie-going industry and stuff. All the while, the whole reason they got Lowe and Farnsworth involved was because they like plateaued at what, 20,000 subscribers, something like that. They like plateaued and they weren't financially solvent yet. So there really wasn't like a clear, they did not have an answer for how this was going to work and grow. And then they got like the two worst people in on it, and then it sank the company. But I'm just like, they didn't even at pricing at $40 a month, they weren't making money. So there never seemed to be a plan in place to make this profitable. And or like a real vision, or if there was, we didn't get it in the documentary of how this was going to work, how they would achieve subscriber growth and financial growth simultaneously. Had the $9.95 a month thing maybe been what it probably should have been all along, was a limited time lock-in promotion for people who get it. Like, you know, if you subscribe this month, that's $9.95 a month for 6 months. That's probably what they should have done, but they kept it going because it was such a talking point, and the growth was outrageous. So that was the one thing. If I ever got to interview Stacy Spikes, I would ask him, like, what was your plan to make MoviePass financially solvent when Lowe and Farnsworth came on? What did you suggest that they closed the door on you and kicked you out of the room?
We might be seeing some of that right now, with whatever Stacy is doing. Stacey Spikes is doing with the relaunch. And like, when was that countdown? Was that 2 years ago? That big countdown of
it was
relaunch?
Like, it was about a year and a half. It was Dom. I literally got into the beta a week before your wedding, and I used it to go see two. I used MoviePass beta to go see two movies. One was the oh my god, it's the Searching sequel or spiritual sequel. Missing, thank you. And then whatever we reviewed the week after that is what I
might have been 80 for Brady.
You know what, it was 80 for Brady. Those were the two movies I used for it, and then I canceled it, and I'll get into why I canceled it later. But yeah, it was about like a year and a half ago, I think, is like when that countdown started, and they rolled it out very slowly, the beta, and I got it like a week before your wedding.
Okay. All right.
Going off of your point, Steve, of like, you know, what was going to be like, you know, how would you stabilize it? I really do think they were trying to bank on like a theater backing them up with this, getting something like a powerhouse like AMC or Cinemark even.
No, I think they did say that actually in like, this is all dependent on someone giving us a bone, which is why they went to Ted and Mitch.
Yeah.
Because the AMC deal initially failed.
Yeah.
Because the CEO left, the CEO that was friendly to them, and then they brought in the current CEO,
Jerry Lopez, who was friendly with them, and he just stepped down at like the worst possible time before this deal went through. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm glad you also said this, because this was the other, I swear to God, I'll say more positive things about this, because I actually did like this documentary. But I did feel like it is kind of a by-the-numbers documentary. With the animation sequences, how it's edited and everything, nothing really made me go, oh, dude, this is so well put together. Or like, man, it knows when to throw you a curve on like some new information being overturned. It really did feel like by the numbers. But yeah, I mean, I was talking about this earlier. Hearing the employees' point of view was great, but also hearing subscribers' point of view is even better. When you hear it from their thing and how some of them were giving the finger to you know, the camera and everything, when we had to do the ticket verification, Steve's one of those people. Or the guy that sent in poop in a box to like the office and everything. We're not one of those guys. Didn't do that, at least. I loved it because it's like somebody says like, oh man, yeah, I saw 4 movies a month, man. I was having a great time. And all I thought to myself was, holy shit, Steve and I reviewed 2 to 3 movies a week. We outdid everybody in this documentary. Where was our due diligence, honestly, of getting interviewed?
It's like when someone says, oh yeah, I gamed for like 2 hours yesterday. Oh shit.
Oh god. I have a problem.
We were the ones when it's revealed at the end, and this was known, this has been out there, but it's revealed in the documentary. We were the ones they were trying to actively game against, because I remember a few times like trying to go see a movie, being in the literal parking lot, having to like try and update the app still doesn't work, force close the app, try it again. You know, like sometimes like 7 or 8 times, I'm like, I'm seeing this damn thing like through MoviePass.
And Steve, you're bringing up what kind of won this back for me was them exploring that side of the app, where it was an app that was eventually becoming something to turn against its users, the people that are subscribed to it. When they started uncovering, because that was what I was most interested about, because you and I covered this all the time. We talked about it where it's like, I couldn't go see Ant-Man and the Wasp because it was like, for some reason, I just couldn't get a ticket. And this was near the end of Sleepless during its radio show. The last movie I saw with this damn thing was Won't You Be My Neighbor. I couldn't see Jurassic World Dominion, if that was the correct one, right? Or is it something else? Lost Kingdom. Lost Kingdom. There we go. Dominion was like 2 years ago or something. I couldn't go see Lost Kingdom with MoviePass because every time I tried to click on a showtime, it said, oh, try again later. Oh, man. And this was also during a time where they had surge pricing, where it's like, if I wanted to go see this movie at 7 p.m., I had to pay $1.99 extra for my subscription to go see it at that time. And I was like, no, I'm just not going to do that.
That's when I canceled. That was when I canceled. It was my first movie I saw in Peru, Illinois.
Yeah.
It was Ant-Man and the Wasp. That's when I canceled it.
I think the last movie, okay, that was the last movie we reviewed on Sleepless that I used with MoviePass. The last movie I actually saw was Crazy Rich Asians, but that's beside the points.
That guy who saw it,
that guy I saw him 40 times. I'm like, dude, this guy, like, I was probably in the theater with him at some point. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, if you ever want to know why it's bad for like a company to monopolize so many other things, like Microsoft obtaining all these studios for video games, or Disney owning all these studios for film production and everything, this is kind of a good reason why, because get somebody like now I'm not saying the CEOs of Microsoft or Disney are like these guys, but if you get a CEO like Ted Farnsworth or Mitch Lowe who don't give a shit about you and will be like, nah, just deny them access to the app, deny them access to what they're paying a month to get our service to them, on purpose, and doing all these shady back deals to prevent you, the person that did your side of things, which is paying $9.95 a month to go see as many movies as you want once per day, just preventing you from doing that the whole month. Hell, for the rest of your subscription, even possibly. That is like very worrisome about like any of these companies that get this much power or get this much popularity, and it's just like, hey man, you get a crappy CEO in place, and they can do some shady shit like that to your subscription-based services. It's eventually led to the downfall, because it's like they just thought like, oh, we'll always be popular as an app. Meanwhile, they're not even realizing the money stack that they just like are setting on fire right behind them and everything. That whole last third of the documentary, it made me came to this. I love the first act. I thought the second act was by the numbers. That third act won it over for me, where I was like, no, this is actually a really solid documentary. And it was when they started exploring all the shady stuff.
I don't know if it would have fixed them. I don't know if it would have done anything. But what got me to cancel it ultimately was the stupid surge pricing.
Yeah.
Because the surge pricing, there was nothing more frustrating. I remember, and I'm in Peru, Illinois at the time, population like 9,000 or whatever. It's 2:00 on a Thursday, I think. And I wanted to go see Ant-Man and the Wasp. And it's like, this is a popular showtime. I said, bullshit, nothing's popular at this theater out here. Number one. I haven't even walked inside, and I can promise you that. Number one. Number two, it was, you're paying $9.95 a month. They wanted $3.95 extra for the ticket. They wanted so it was like, you're going to get charged $3.95 in addition to seeing this movie. Yeah. They'll fund your card, but you got to pay an extra $3.95. At that point, I'm like, I remember even thinking, like, I think I bit the bullet on it and saw it and paid that price, and then I canceled it right after the movie. Because my whole logic would be, I would have rather you upped it to $20 a month. Yeah. I would have rather you upped it to $20 a month, because I will still get the value out of that. I would have rather you said the $9.95 a month is done. I would have kept it. I think we even had a discussion at one point of what would the price point be where we would keep it. And I said $24.95.
I think I said 30. I was like, I'm cool with 30, because it's like, I mean, with us reviewing 2 to 3 movies a week, 1 week I can pay that back, because the movie theater I went to often when we were reviewing it in college was AMC, and that's $10 a ticket.
Yeah, and when it was $9.95, one ticket would cover the month. One ticket would cover it. And I remember even thinking, though, I'm like, I would have much rather them just up the price. I'm not paying this surge pricing shit. I already hate this shit with Ubers. You know, when you're trying to get an Uber at a peak volume time and
when
it
you're just
goes up
trying to
in
go
price.
home and you have to pay more.
I know, like, so that's when I canceled it. It was I canceled it before you. I know that.
Yeah.
And I remember I was devastated when I did. But I'm
Man,
like,
I was
I'm
holding
like,
on for dear life, man. I was eating up as many crumbs as I could.
I feel like I think about like even just certain things in life, and it's like I really got out of the fire as
Yeah.
the floor was starting to
Yeah,
catch.
I drove to a theater that was like 17 miles away because I was like, well, I get to use MoviePass to see a movie there. It's just like,
You
all
pay the
right, I got a
difference in
problem. I need to
gas.
cancel this damn thing.
Here, and meanwhile, here I am, like I got my Regal Unlimited subscription, and it's like, oh, I pay for it on my second movie. I was like that one woman where it's like I see 4 movies a month, and I get a great deal for it. Meanwhile, Joe is like an addict, just like yeah.
Dude, I remember I tallied it. I think I saw 97 movies in 2018 because of
You
MoviePass.
should have been interviewed for this damn thing.
I,
You
I,
really
I
should
honestly
have.
was sitting there. I was like, man, you know, hey, next documentary maker of MoviePass, or if 60 Minutes is watching our clip, get me on there, man. I'll give you the tea.
You might have even seen more than me. Because you
Honestly,
go
I
to more
wouldn't be
repeat
surprised.
showings. You see movies 2-3 times.
I do.
I don't
Yeah.
generally do that. You
That
know,
one dude who saw like the Avengers in parts. Who does
Okay, I didn't do
that?
anything like that. And you know, here's the thing: I saw 97, and I'm counting the 97 movies, not like repeat viewings. I saw 97 movies individually, like on their own. I don't know, repeat viewings. That's probably in the hundreds somewhere. I don't even want to think about that.
Oh my god.
I have a document that tells me how many I watched. I think it was probably about 80. I think it was
Yeah.
probably about 80, 85, something like that. We were among the heaviest
Yeah.
users of the
Look,
damn thing.
When I found out the Cardinal shuttle can take me to the theater, I was like, I know what I'm doing after class.
That's why we talk about this and we reminisce about this so fondly, because it'll never happen again.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
I think the surprise of this documentary, as we've noted before, is that like I was excited with this documentary too, and I'm not saying I was disappointed really in any regard, but I was excited for this documentary because I was thinking like, this is all, because every time like when I would have MoviePass discussions or people have brought it up before and stuff like that, I would always say the same thing. I would say it was gone way too soon. It was never built to last as a model, but I loved it because I got to see movies I got to see basically free movies, and some venture capitalists got hosed.
Yeah.
So it was basically the American fucking dream as far as I'm concerned. But so I was excited to see that in the documentary, but then you learn the real story and the origins and how Stacy Spikes and Hamay Watt got screwed.
Yeah.
And then it's like, I'm happy the venture capitalists lost, but this really sucks. At what a price. Like the little guy still lost too. The comparative little guy still lost. And that part made me sad about it. The sad reality of it.
We want to go into closing thoughts, and then we can share a little bit of our MoviePass stories.
That works for me. I guess I'll start just to get it out of the way and things like that and make room for you guys. But as I said before, there's a lot of predictable sort of hallmarks with this documentary too, in terms of the archival footage, the talking heads, the presentation and whatnot. Generally with documentaries, I have to try to really separate myself, be like, do I really like the story and that's why I like this documentary, or how's it being told? And I think it's told all right. It's told linearly, which is nice. But when the story's this good, follows 2 genuinely well-meaning individuals, and I learn a lot from it too, which I did with this, which was even surprising to me as somebody who, I mean, not only had the app and had the service, but covered it along with you, Joe. I kind of let things slide. And also at the end of the day too, like, how many times have we said MoviePass could have been a movie in itself? The whole concept, the whole
Here you
rise
are.
and fall. Here it is. And overall, I think it's pretty good. I think you come away from really understanding the appeal, the success, the draw of the story, of the service, and you learn a lot on the way too. I give it 3 out of 4 stars. I think it's a uniformly solid documentary. I think it could have been better in some regards, some flaws ironed out, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was I think it's a story that needs to be told, especially because even for people tapped in like Joe and I, we only knew half the story that was told.
I'll go next. Yeah, I mean, I did learn here about Stacy and Hamat, and I think that was probably the best thing about this documentary is their story is finally being told, because Hell, I didn't know who they were. I thought Mitch and Loeb, because that's all I saw in my emails from MoviePass when it came to my subscription information, was those two names. I never saw Stacy and Hamad. So to finally have their, story be told, as well as, like we're learning their side of everything, and everything they got screwed over by for Mitch and Ted. I think that very much is probably like why it's probably worth watching this documentary for anybody, especially if you were a MoviePass subscriber, or you still are if you jumped onto the new one. I was a little disappointed when it came to some of the interview aspects. Like I said, even I thought like they did a great job. Like I said, I enjoyed the employees and the fans of MoviePass, or the subscribers, and getting their side of the story. I just wish we got a little bit more, because like I think the Fire Festival documentary did such a great job of getting as many employees and their perspectives as much as possible, as well as Action Park, which I thought did a great job at finding all these people who used to attend that park, and even the employees who used to work there. It was like, I just want a little bit more. It just kind of, it really is crazy, because it's like, man, thinking back to all the documentaries we've been reviewing, and they've done such a great job at like grabbing all these people and their different points of view. And then we get this one, and it's like, it did a good job, not a great job, but good, but a solid good job that I still think it's very much worth viewing and finding out what the hell was this point of history in 2017 to 2018 of MoviePass, from its rise and fall in 8 months, basically. For me, it's a solid 3 out of 4 stars.
3 out of 4 stars, 3 big points that all you need to take away from this. One, venture capitalists like this, they're all effing parasites, and it's all bullshit artistry. It truly, really is. Hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars flow through this country, all based on bullshit like you saw in this documentary. 2, your workplace is probably run kind of like a dictatorship, and that's kind of effed up, and maybe the workers should have a little bit more rights and like actual actionable way to assert their will. And 3, racism. This is how racism manifests in a way that isn't Jim Crow. This is literally textbook. It blows my mind how much this story was so on its face, like, oh, this is like actually racist. how the erasure that we saw here, and that's how it manifested today. And how it still manifests in a lot in even more subtle ways than that. We ain't past it, folks. So I think this is a great movie just to really drive home those 3 points, because that's unfortunately how you don't get 90 movies in a single year for pennies on the film.
You're welcome, man. Ted and Mitch.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said. I think one of the guys who has a really elite quote in this thing, and I'm going to butcher it, but I'll paraphrase it, is Damon John, recognizable from Shark Tank. Damon John has a few bits in this movie, and he has a really good point, though, and it's quick. But he says, though, when the story of how Stacy and Hamay lost their company, and Damon says, this happens a lot with, and being a black man himself, a black entrepreneur, he says this happens with black entrepreneurs a lot. He said that like white men have about 95% of the capital that's necessary to grow a business, get funding, get loans, and things like that. And he says oftentimes he's like, African-American entrepreneurs do not have access to that. So they have to partner with somebody they're hoping retains their best interest. And the list of businesses that have been crippled, kneecapped, or dissolved because of this sort of predatory money at the expense of capital is a mile high and a mile wide. And I thought Damon John had a really astute point on that. And I think coming from him of all people, if you don't know his background, he started the FUBU clothing. That's what he started back in the 80s. His story is really fascinating too. So I was happy to see him in this documentary. He doesn't do a lot of films, so it was cool to see him.
He was one of the best like celebrity, I guess, interviewers they brought in, like, in terms of people they were like asking around, like outside of this industry. He was one of the better ones to bring in.
I agree. I like his perspective too, and I like him on Shark Tank. Moreover, though, if we want to share any MoviePass details, we can. I kind of gave away mine. You brought up the one of mine, was that when they implemented that ticket verification thing where you'd have to take the picture of the ticket before seeing the movie. Oh,
I wanted to know, how were they verifying that? Literally manually?
That's what it sounded like from the documentary.
Hundreds of thousands of people sending pictures, and your job is to just look at these pictures.
Dom,
Yeah, it looks like a movie ticket.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was a guy just going through, just hitting approve. He wasn't even looking at the pictures.
Probably just hitting approve.
It didn't make any sense because you would send in the picture
Oh.
and then like immediately be like, all right, you're good to go. It's like, wait a minute, but how does this work? Like,
how does it know?
Like, yeah.
How does it? And the other thing is too, there was even a few times where like if I would take a picture of the ticket, I'd put it on the counter right away from the ticket taker, but I would put it on the counter like once I get in the theater, I put it on the counter and I flip it off and I take the picture. And then sometimes I would I would shiver or something and it would be a little blurry and I'm like, fuck you, send, and it'd be like approved and it's blurry, you can't even read it. I'm like, fuck you.
It's manual.
Like,
you're right. It's got to be manual because they weren't investing in anything. They weren't investing in any infrastructure, any other expert personnel other than these poor sons of bitches who had to sit there and do that shit. Oh my God.
It probably wasn't approved. It probably was a bank that it went to, like a support ticket bank. And they just had to hit approve constantly. That was one of the things I did though.
Control A. Accept. Control.
The straw that
accept.
broke the camel's back was the first time they tried to get me to pay an extra fee on top of the ticket. I'm like, you dumb sons of bitches. You should have just told me that my subscription was going up $10 a month. I would have stayed for that. But I'm like, no, this insidious kind of shit. And especially because too, this is the other thing. It's not like Stubs, which I have now. It's not like Stubs where I can go ahead from my house and buy the ticket for next week. That's generally what I do. I buy them a week in advance just so I can kind of know my schedule for the next week and the weekend. I can cancel them super easy. I'm not putting any money down either. I already pay a flat rate of $20 a month. So that's why I do it. But my point being though, is I can buy the Stubs tickets from home. Yeah. With MoviePass, it was location based. So you had to be at the theater. You could not get it from your house. You had to be in the literal parking lot of the theater because the app had to know that you were actually planning on seeing this movie. You weren't just erroneously trying to get the cost of a movie ticket loaded on this pay-as-you-go debit card. Yeah. That was the other part of it. So I'm like, I already, in order to use this thing, I have to go. I'm planning to go to the movie. I have to drive and go to the theater in order to buy the ticket from this service to begin with. And when I'm already here, that's when you're going to stick me with that $3-4 fee. Fuck you. Like, that was really because that's when I remember like watching Ant-Man and the Wasp thinking like, why does this mortally offend me? And then I'm like, okay, this is why. Okay, I have reason. Why would I rather pay $20 a month than get charged $4 extra? And that's the reason. That's the pure and simple reason. It's not even like Uber, where Uber is just always a different rate every time, depending on conditions, traffic, time of day, time of night. It's not like that. It's a totally different concept.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of got mine during the review, but the movie I went to go see that was like 17 miles away was Sorry to Bother You, because for some reason, this was also something that was weirdly happening, is that certain theaters were blocking MoviePass from seeing stuff at their location.
That happened, yeah.
I mean, like again, I mean, there was like so many things too. I was thinking about this document, I'm like, man, they didn't even go over that. Damn. But yeah, I had to drive 17 miles because I wanted to see Sorry to Bother You, and I was just like, oh, I get to use MoviePass, not realizing like, if I were to go see like a matinee show like right down the street, I would save money and gas, honestly.
Yeah. You were in the cult, bro.
But here it is. Let me go right here. Here is the new MoviePass card. And
like a black Amex. It's like an Amex Centurion card.
It's a lot more sleek in terms of a card design.
I hope you never sell that like that one dude in the documentary.
Oh, I'm not. After seeing how much you can sell the original one for, I'm like, this one's staying with me no matter what. It's the same thing as they brought up in the documentary. It's a patent on location services for funds type of thing. But now, and I'll pull it up here on the screen, I'll try to explain it to you guys as best as I can. The $10 tier is three movies per month, and you have 34 credits. And this is how credits work now on MoviePass, is that, so it's not really 3 movies per month. It's like up to that. They need like an asterisk next to that up to. If you were to go see Deadpool and Wolverine on 7 p.m., that would use up all 34 of your credits more than likely, because you're seeing it prime time at a theater, full price, all that stuff. and that basically knocks out like your whole entire credits. But if you were to go see Deadpool and Wolverine, or if you were to go see, let's say something's been in theaters for quite some time, like by that point, like Bad Boys Ride or Die, it's coming out this Friday, but you're seeing it in July. Bad Boys Ride or Die, if you go see a matinee show, it's only 4 credits, or it's only 10, and whatever you don't end up using, it does roll over into the next month, allowing you to see maybe 2 primetime showings of something. So if you're a person who only goes like to the theater maybe once, twice a month, that's like a perfect option for you. Especially if you're just there to see like the big summer blockbusters, that might be good. If you're someone like us, premium or standard, the $20 or $30 one, it's the same thing. You can see up to 4 movies, 5 movies, but the premium one, which is $30 a month, it's 113 credits. That allows you to go see a lot of those premium screenings, because a lot of those will, like, if you would go see something opening night at 7 p.m., a lot of those are 20 to 30 credits. And you get 113 here, and if they carry over, it builds up as well. From my time using it, it's similar to how you had to be on location. It sends the money to the card, like he has the patent of that, like he brings up, Stacy brings up in the documentary. And then you just same thing. You swipe, you get your ticket, you're good to go. I only did it with 2 movies, and the reason being is because I had AMC A-List, and just A-List is just more convenient, and it just offers a better selection.
It's so much easier.
It's so much easier and everything. But
and this doesn't sound built. Sorry to interrupt you. This doesn't sound built for somebody who goes as frequently as myself or even you.
Yes, this is good for a casual moviegoer if they want to save money, but they like going to the theater. It's that one lady in the documentary who's like, "Oh, I saw 4 movies a month because of this. You know, I really got to go see a lot more than I usually do." This is that, where it's like, if you're looking to save some money and you do like going to the movie theater and everything, this is perfect for you. Or if you have buddies,
I like how every black person in this documentary had the most utmost self-control, which is so contrasted with everyone with the 2 guys at the top. Sorry, go ahead, continue.
No, you're good. And what was I gonna say? Yeah, I'll bring it up again. I'll show the thing. They even have a little thing. It kind of explains how the credits work, and they give you like a bio of people who have been using it. And it kind of gives you like, it shows you like how a weekday evening, how many credits that is, or weekday afternoon, how many credits that is, all that stuff.
Why is it such an arbitrary? Did you say 113 credits for $30 a month?
Yes, because
why is it such an obtuse, like just an odd number?
I think it's just because like 1 credit equals this amount of dollars, and then this credit equals this amount of dollars.
Because that conversion is weird. That's a weird conversion.
The conversion is weird. It was probably the thing I thought that was really weird and kind of confusing to understand after resubscribing to it. But I thought overall, if you don't have an AMC near you, or if you don't have a Cinemark near you, or, you know, if you're somebody that has a Marcus Theaters, Century Low, not Century Low, oh my god,
Classic Cinemas,
Classic Cinemas, or you just
Regal.
have a local theater, Regal, if you have any of those by you and they don't allow those membership programs that Dom has with, what is it, yours is Regal or Cinemark, Dom? I forgot.
It is Regal.
Okay, my bad. So if you have a Cinemark instead of a Regal by you and everything, you know, change out what I was saying there. So if you don't have a Regal by you and you don't have an AMC by you like me and Steve do, where we go see that, with our membership there, I do think the new MoviePass is very much worth it. And it's like, I mean, and I was using it during beta, so it's probably even better now. Who knows? But that was my initial impression was, it's good. It's not as great as it used to be, but it will never, ever be that again. But it's good enough for anybody that doesn't have, I think, those theater chains by them. And especially if you're more casual going, like you go see the superhero movies, you go see the big blockbusters, and that's mainly about it. You don't really go see something like Thelma. If you don't know what Thelma is, there you go. Then you know this isn't really built for you.
Great name drop of a movie I'm seriously looking forward to.
Same, yeah.
Great name drop right there. I think that's. I gotta say, Dom, I don't know if you have anything to add. I know you didn't have the service.
Not really. I always thought this looks like a scam, to be frank. I was right, but man, I could have taken advantage of that. I'm too cautious for my own good. I could have reaped the rewards from that so bad. But yes. I really was that one woman where it's like, yeah, 4 movies a month. This is such a great deal. Like that's how I am, frankly.
This was a really, really good show. I enjoyed reliving the
Um,
movie past days and stuff because it was kind of like the story and the service that built Sleepless in so many ways too,
you come
because it
full
was
circle.
it
I
was a
think
constant
is
story.
is this the last big story until inevitably more Dan Schneider shit happens? But like, is this the last one?
I
This is the
have to
last
I
big
think
look.
story. I think.
every main thing. I told you one day we have to do a top 10 things that kept us sleepless of all the things. I mean, I think of like Tenet. Everything else of the saga is kind of concluded. Tenet, Rust. I guess until that movie comes out. I guess until the Rust movie comes out. That's probably the last major thing that
The God's
will
Not Dead movies, I think, are like another like Mount Rushmore thing. Just that franchise.
probably, especially
100%.
after just a vitriolic review of the God's Not Dead, We the People. When we start talking God's Not Dead, it is time to close, though. Movie Pass, Movie Crash on Max, though. Definitely check it out, especially if you've had Movie Pass before or you remember it fondly. That's our show tonight, though. Next week is Hitman. Richard Linklater, brand new movie. Glenn Powell is in this one. It's coming to Netflix on Friday. There's not really a ton out in theaters this weekend, but there's a Bad Boys movie, I guess. Again, not a ton out.
Will they
I stand
finally get Agent 47 correct? No, I'm kidding.
couldn't give less of a shit about Bad Boys Ride or Die. So we are talking about Hitman, the brand new Richard Linklater movie. And as I say every time the week before a Richard Linklater movie comes out next week, we will talk about Hitman. Until then, we will link later. That's our show, Sleepless with Steve. We come to you live and in living color every Wednesday evening. Great show. Glad to have you back, Dom. Glad to have you. Great perspective, too. Joe, thanks for everything you've done, including but not limited to the amazing rebrand you've given this show to make it look sterling and beautiful on the YouTube channel. It looks great. I guess the last thing I'll touch on, we had a really good discussion last week about the death of Morgan Spurlock and his complicated legacy. Highly recommend checking out that video that Joe was gracious enough to cut and upload as well on the YouTube channel. Check that out if you missed that, kind of recapping the death of documentarian Morgan Spurlock and the complicated legacy that he leaves after his death at age 53. Until then, next week we're reviewing Richard Linklater's Hitman. For Dominic Guanzon, Joe Viso, and yours truly, this has been Sleepless with Steve.